Welcome to my channel. The cold edge of the stratosphere crackles with tension. A whisper of heat shimmers against the invisible veil of 60,000 feet. At this altitude, the sky bleeds into spacey thin, silent, unforgiving. Somewhere above the western Pacific, two shadows split the heavens apart. The J-50 NGAD, sleek and predatory, stares across the sky. Its stealth profile is nearly invisible on radar, but its presence is unmistakable in the minds of those who know it's out there. It doesn't broadcast its power, it holds it, like a coiled spring, waiting to strike. From the east, slicing low with vectoring grace, the silhouette of China's newest combat marvel cuts into view. It's rumored to be the J-36, though no one outside of Beijing is quite sure. Its shape is sharp and organic, a tailless, ghost-like. The aircraft seems to shift against the sky like a mirage, its plasma stealth coating bending radar and light alike. The moment is silent. No words, no signals, just a sudden burst of energy. Both jets accelerate at once, like twin lightning bolts. The air behind them warps and screams, their afterburn is dim compared to the battle systems lighting up within. They close the gap in seconds. The J-50 NGAD drops low, diving into a cloud deck, using the environment as cover. Its iCombat suite calculates thousands of possible maneuvers per second, offering optimal engagement strategies. The pilot allows the system to flow, becoming less a controller and more a conductor in symphony with the machine. The Chinese fighter follows with chilling precision. It doesn't take the bait. Instead, it deploys a swarm of microdrones from a hidden payload bay. These drones scatter information, relaying data back to the fighter's cockpit and feeding into its quantum sensor network. The sky around NGAD becomes hostile. Digital snow, electronic interference, high-frequency chaos. The J-50 NGAD responds with its own counter-swarm. The airspace becomes a battleground not just of steel and fire but of algorithms and data. Eye versus sight in a silent war measured in nanoseconds. Then NGAD rolls into a high-G corkscrew, braking left as it deploys a hypersonic air-to-air missile. It doesn't need to lock, it knows the enemy's position by heat, by electromagnetic disturbance, by 1,000 whispers the Chinese stealth can't fully hide. But the J-36 is already gone. It banks impossibly sharp, aided by thrust vectoring nozzles and advanced control surfaces invisible to the eye. The missile misses, barely. Now the J-36 takes the lead. It surges forward, launching a high-speed railgun slug from its belly port. No explosion, just kinetic death at Mach 6. What the NGAD anticipates, a microsecond before impact, it ejects a decoy that mimics its thermal and radar signature perfectly. The slug punches into the decoy and vanishes into the clouds. The real NGAD climbs, shooting vertically, engines roaring silently in the high atmosphere. It disappears into the sun for a brief second and then reappears, descending with controlled fury. It opens its weapon bay. Another missile, but not a kinetic kill. This one is smarter. It broadcasts a full signal, an electronic ghost that mimics the J-36's own command and control frequency. The Chinese jet flinches, not because it's hit, but because it's momentarily blind. Its drone net collapses, its sensors scramble, its eye flooded with conflicting inputs. In that fleeting instant of digital vulnerability, the NGAD strikes, not with a missile, with a directed energy weapon, an invisible beam that heats a critical surface component on the J-36's left wing just enough to trigger structural failure under extreme pressure. The J-36 spirals, not destroyed but crippled. It recovers barely and retreats, its systems flickering back online just in time to vanish into the haze. The NGAD doesn't chase, it hovers high above, silent again, the ghost in the sky. It had proven its edge not through brute force, but through precision, deception, and dominion of the invisible battlespace. Absolutely. Here's a more detailed and expanded version of the J-50 NGAD versus China's 6th General Fighter Jet script, crafted as a cinematic, immersive scene blending military realism with speculative advanced technology. This version adds more technical, emotional, and strategic layers while keeping it narration-focused. No headings, visuals, or host lines. The sun had barely broken over the Pacific horizon when the silence was shattered by a tremor in the upper atmosphere. At 65,000 feet, above the range of conventional threats, two invisible titans closed in on one another, silent, unseen, and lethal. From the west, The U.S. J-50 NGAD, a next-generation air dominance soared like a blade of obsidian. It was more than a fighter, it was an ecosystem, eye-driven, autonomously assisted, stealth-optimized. Its fuselage was seamless, built from adaptive composite materials that constantly changed their signature depending on threat detection. Its canopy shimmered faintly with electrochromatic camouflage, its pilot more an operator than aviator, linked nearly into the aircraft's battlefield brain. From the east, the Chinese sixth-generation aircraft, codenamed internally as Silent Tiger and speculated in the west as either the J-36 or J-50, emerged over a dead zone of sea, angular, fluid, and tailless. Its architecture was unlike any known generation before it. Plasma stealth fields flickered softly across its leading edges, reducing not just radar cross-section but even reducing drag via boundary layer control. The aircraft spoke no words up, it merely pulsed data, fed directly from low-orbit Beidou satellites and high-altitude quantum drones shadowing the engagement zone. No radar log, no spoken warnings, no AWACS. This was warfare in its purest, most modern form, of machine versus machine, backed by the human instincts that remained at the core of air dominance. Both fighters saw each other before sensors confirmed it. Mutual detection didn't come through radar or wrist, it came from disruption. The atmosphere shimmered unnaturally, airflow patterns displaced. Then NGAD's passive sensors noted small gravitational distortions. The Chinese jet said Guy registered a brief magnetic spike from the NGAD's power plant during a high-thrust climb. Then NGAD dropped onto a steep dive, utilizing an adaptive thrust vectoring maneuver designed to break conventional infrared tracking. It launched its XQ-77 Ghost drone via a loyal wingman, semi-autonomous and optimized for decoy and jamming operations. It shot left while the NGAD fired right, creating a forked threat profile. The Chinese jet did not respond with panic. It opened its ventral bay and deployed its own smart wingman Cicada-class drone interceptors. These drones weren't just decoys, they used ice swarm algorithms and quantum entanglement syncing to hunt in silence, communicating without detectable RF emissions. They swarmed the Ghost drone instantly, overwhelming it in under 11 seconds. One exploded next to the drone's skin, not to destroy it but to blast its memory core with EMP. Then NGAD's Ghost dropped dead. But the NGAD had already repositioned. Using geospatial prediction and advanced terrain following it curved under a stratospheric ridge of cold wind and re-emerged behind the Chinese jet. A lock tone buzzed in the operator's skull, an arrow ping, not the sound. Missile launch. An AIMXR-9 hyperkinetic dart ripped forward, no plume, no roar, just a sudden blink of white acceleration. Mach 8 in under 3 seconds. But the Chinese jet spun sideways, venting supercooled air along its fuselage. It shed its heat signature like a snake shedding skin. The missile passed by, confused by the near-zero delta. The Chinese pilot struck back, a silent railgun pulse fired electromagnetic, almost imperceptible. The round missed, not due to poor aim, but because the NGAD had deployed Prism drone as a tiny reflective nanodrones that split radar and lidar signals across multiple angles, fooling the shot's targeting into thinking the aircraft was drifting when it was not. The Chinese aircraft surged forward, deploying a hypersonic half from its spinning spear-shaped drone carrying a small directed energy system. It fired on sea an narrowband microwave aimed at the NGAD's rear cooling shrouds. For a heartbeat, the NGAD's power core spiked. Systems flickered, the HUD twisted, but only briefly. The pilot, trained for neural resiliency, pushed into override. His thoughts and muscle memory synchronized with the NGAD's backup flight eye, bringing the system back online. The aircraft rolled over, skimming the upper mesosphere, then looped behind its adversary in a microgravity half-spin maneuver impossible in any fifth-gen airframe. At under 30 miles, visual range was achieved at an eerie sight at that altitude. Two aircraft barely visible against the thin blue-black edge of space, circling in silence, each with weapons still at the ready. Then NGAD fired again, and not a missile this time, but a quantum airspace denial field sphere projected through localized impulses. It wasn't lethal. It disrupted data. The Chinese jet swarm of drones blinked off for 6 seconds, long enough, from a hidden compartment, The NGAD released an unguided kinetic dart, one of only two it carried. It locked on a known weak point in the Chinese jet's skin, likely detected from earlier heat mapping data and infrared whisper signatures. The dart struck not an explosion, but a shearing impact. A panel burst loose. No fire, no smoke, but enough damage to destabilize lift control. The Chinese fighter banked away sharply, trailing nothing but its pride. It limped eastward, still flying, still intact, but it wouldn't re-engage. The J-50 NGAD circled once,